So first of all, thank you very much for joining us in this project and for allowing us to share your knowledge in your company or your time to help us to share all the information about your business and your point of view about the real estate industry. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Padraig.
thank you, Jeremy.
Well, I'd like to start. So I'd like to start getting knowing more about yourself. So who are you and where you came from? So a bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, I grew up here in the west of Ireland. I would be from a farming background, so my dad was a farmer, so we would have grown up, and then over time would have become very interested in the construction business. And I was the only, but my brother is in the property. He's a property economist, and I would have just got interested in all things kind of architecture and building, and then went on to study quantity surveying in university. Graduated in 2004. Then had worked in private practice, and then had, I suppose, been involved in a lot of contracts and contract administration over time. And back in 2009, I set up my own consultancy business, and over time, then this thing was picking at me that we're not using enough technology in the the real estate business and the construction business. So obviously there's quite a different landscape now from, I suppose, when we started this in 2007. I think construction is really one of the fastest moving, and real estate, it's one of the fastest moving industries now in terms of technology. So I think that's kind of, I suppose, a brief overview of my journey to where we are now.
Nice. And when you first created the company, what exactly was the problem you were trying to solve?
Yeah, the big problem was, or the initial problem was duplication. I just found there was a lot of duplication. So, as a quantity surveyor, we were always dealing with numbers. I would have one set of figures. Another quantity surveyor would, on the same project, there could be anything from up to 2, 3 to 4 sets of figures. The client would have one set of figures. The client's design team, maybe the quantity surveyor has a different design team. The investors may have another set of figures. So there was no real collaboration around figures. And technology, software is just tailor made for handling all of this, and giving one source of truth, and one. And also, one of the things in construction contracts, in the real estate business, is very much can be an attritional type of an attitude. And what we wanted to do was, and sometimes we found that a lot of that was down to poor communication. And we say, okay, if you can improve these things, you will just improve, and it will lead hopefully to what we call the good contract. And the good contract is where an investor or a client who's investing in real estate, and a real estate could be something as small as a house, or a large commercial building like a hotel. If there's good communication, then there's a great chance of a good contract where the client gets good value for money, the architect doesn't lose his job, and the design team, and the contractor walks away with a decent profit. And I suppose trying to harness that collaborative environment, which technology provides, and one single source of truth, that we've found that's definitely lending itself to a much easier and a much more fluid running contract.
Yeah. So, and then what exactly is the product you have? So what the product and services that if people want to buy something from you, what is it?
So it's digital contract management. So it's we have 3 products. So one of our products is very much targeted at the local authorities or municipalities here in Ireland, which are using it. So that manages the contract. Manages the whole contract for a large number of small size contracts. So Dublin City Council, for example, one of our main clients, would run about 1,000 of these a year. They're very heavy on paperwork, and we've taken all of that out of it, and it's all a digital system now that they use. Our main product is, we have one other product then that is for the domestic housing market. So it could be a couple who are building a new house, or they're refurbishing an old house, and it's very much a stripped down version of it's a contract management system for the domestic market. And our main product then is very much targeted at the commercial real estate. So if it's a new hotel or a refurbishment or anything, there's a multi-million euro expenditure, capital expenditure. This system will manage not only the contractual side of things, it'll set up the contracts between the contractor and the client. We're also building in the tendering system. So potentially a client can set up their tender documents. They can invite their select contractors to come in and actually price the job in the system. We can automate the reports. We can find out if there's strategic pricing in there, if they price something that is a little bit of an anomaly in comparison to the other tenders that have come in. So through this kind of, because we're collecting all the data, we can, through machine learning, we can, over time, we can kind of spot if there are, anomalies in there that will protect the client and their investment from, getting a big shock midway through the contract. And also what we do is the financial management of the contract as the contract is happening. So if there's something that crops up, a change that incurs quite a huge cost, we manage that whole process through the system in compliance with the contract, and we keep the I suppose one of our big focuses for us is actually protecting the client's investment and giving them real-time information on how their project is performing financially and from a time perspective, so that they have got instant access to the information all of the time. They're not waiting on monthly reports from their own team, and they're constantly staying in tune with their project, so they can make good decisions.
Yeah, very interesting. And what are the key points of differentiation of your company? What makes you different?
Again, we've a relatively small team in terms of, for a company that, we're talking to some quite high level clients, but I suppose trust is a big thing, and I think it can't be understated in terms of the team that we have. There's a good level of trust. We all trust each other to know our own field of expertise. We don't try and cross over too much, but but I suppose, again, it's down to good trust and communication. Again, it's kind of one of the things we're very strong on in terms of getting a good person with the right skills to fit the right job. We try not to hire people just for the sake of hiring them to fill a gap. We've grown more slowly than than possibly doing big hires at a time. We'd like to hire one at a time and take our time and get the right people for the right fit. So we find that we can run as a much more efficient system ourselves by doing that.
Yeah, this actually is quite hard. This the right balance and the sum of these elements on only one equation is quite hard. So I believe that these are points of differentiation for sure.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And sometimes I guess there's an expectation with startups like this that you kind of grow really fast. But I was involved in a startup many years ago where we tried to grow really fast, and it didn't work out because we didn't. You build again. It's like building a real estate building. You put the right things in at the right time, and you grow a little bit more slowly, but you grow a lot more steadily. And I think that's what the one thing about us. We're in this for the long run, and we want to build on solid foundations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and well, in terms of what's the timeline for the development of your solution? So, what are you already selling it, or what is it?
Yeah, so one of our products, the local authority or municipality product, is developed and is in use with local authorities. We do have an add-on to this, so this will kind of run into asset management. So, for example, one of the municipalities here would have maybe 3,000 houses. What we're doing with them now is we're combining the contract management with the asset. So every time each asset being a local authority house, anytime there's work done to it, or there's something happens in that house, or it needs to be refurbished, that will happen on our system, and it will feed into it will automatically feed into that asset. So that asset gets updated automatically as works are happening. So that system is one system, but it's kind of evolving as it goes. There are other products that are also, I guess, for sale, and for they're out there and they're on projects. So the domestic housing one is on projects, and the AddJust, our main product for the commercial real estate market, is very much up and running. And I suppose we're constantly evolving, and we're trying to add. One of the things we're actually talking about adding today was integration with the likes of Teams and the likes of Zoom, so that again, one of the things we want to do is that, like, everything is contained within AddJust. That AddJust kind of houses all the information around a project, that, even if it's meetings and stuff, that you can have your meeting on Zoom and it's stored on AddJust. All the documents are stored on AddJust. It's your place to go for your project information. So that's one of the things, the integrations, is we're looking at. And then we're integrating with other financial systems as well. Again, depending on the organization, that if payments and all are being processed through our system, they're feeding into Aggresso or Sage or whatever system the institution are using already.
Yeah, nice. And can you share a story of a successful case with your client of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, going back to Dublin, they were one of our first, so they're probably our most advanced. For example, they would have used, in terms of resources, they would have used six guys to manage their works across the city in terms of logging the houses. Now they're down to 2 on that, so they've automatically been able to take those 4 and redeploy them to other work. That's just out on site. Within their office, they used to use 7 quantity surveyors and cost consultants to manage just the payments and stuff that are coming in. They're reducing that down to 3. So these are just the other thing as well is that, for example, the contractors. So the old process of managing all those 1,000 contracts per year, I suppose, like many cities across the world, housing is a big issue, and homelessness, and the speed at which these houses get put back into the system. So typically what happens is a house comes back into them, it needs to be refurbished, needs some work done to it, and needs to be relet. So we've taken about 3 to 4 weeks off the turnaround time on that by using our system, again, because we automate the procurement of contractors as well. So contractors would have prices submitted for 2 years. Our system can calculate through the 51,500 line items. It can calculate which contractor is the cheapest for that particular set of works in that particular area. So again, we use our database can calculate that, and that used to take 2 to 3 weeks just to procure. Now it's automated and it happens instantly. So those are just, I suppose, a couple of the key points that, again, I guess, and with AddJust, tendering, issuing a tender report at the end of a tender process, where you have to go through each of the different prices that have come in. And, large projects, could be talking tens of thousands of line items that used to have to, you would have had to have a quantity surveyor go through each of those and, pull out the stuff. It's very, very laborious. Again, we can automate that whole process and deliver a tender report instantaneously. So those are a couple of the key wins that people would get from using our system.
And you mentioned that you kind of review the full process of contract management and to hire someone, for example. And what's the exact moment for a company to purchase your system or to hire your system?
I think once they have approval, whether it's approval to proceed to I guess their tendering stage, which is where they go, or the procurement. So if they're going to, so once a client has agreed with their design team, yes, let's proceed with this, and they have their approval from their planning permit or planning approval, as they call it here, that's, at that planning stage is probably, once they have that approval, I think it's time to engage with us, because if you get your project engaged with the system earlier, so at the tender stage system, everything flows seamlessly all the way through, right through to the final delivery, the handover of that project, and all of the data is contained within the system. So I mean, we're all, us in the industry, we're very used to jumping out of email, jumping to all the different communication methods we have. I'm storing certain documents, the client is storing certain documents, the contractor is storing certain documents. Having all that housed at an early stage gives you a step-by-step approach to having, again, if you want to look back, if at the end of a project, once it's handed over, you can trawl back through all the information just in one system. So I think the earlier you engage with us, the better. So really around approval stage, once your project is ready to send out to tender stage or procurement stage, that's probably the best time to engage with us.
And when you go to the market and offer your system to clients, what are the key objection points they bring to you? Because I think that it's not quite difficult to prove that your system is valuable and can add value to their projects.
I guess one of the stumbling blocks can often be that this is the old phrase, "This is the way we always do it," and it's something very, very prevalent in construction. We don't go in and say to anybody, "You're doing this wrong." They're not doing it wrong. They're doing it. They've been doing it for 40 years or 50 years or 10 years. They've probably been doing it right, and they're busy. They're quite busy, but you can do it better. That's what we say to them. You can actually do more projects by using our system. You can you've got much more control in terms of for a client. Sometimes when we sell to the clients, they're very much, well, our design team just handle it, so we rely on them. Again, that's quite valid, and again, it's not something that we would knock down or disagree with them on. But we do kind of feel that the clients that are funding these projects, whether they're a real estate company or an investment fund, they should be entitled to have a bit of an oversight on how their money is being spent. And I don't mean that sometimes that they need to delve down into the last message that has been sent by somebody on the design team. But what our system does, because we gather the data at a very granular level, we can give really high quality live reporting to them, so they can log into a dashboard in the morning and see, well, this project is running at 4% over, this project is running 15% over. And what that just allows them is a quick snapshot, so they can go in, pick up the phone, ask a few questions, so that they can bring their project back in on stream. I guess look, the industry has survived long before we arrived, but we do feel that there's a more efficient way of doing things, and there's a slightly better way of doing things, and we can really add value. Like that's the one thing we feel we can add value.
Yeah, for sure. And which countries do you work currently?
So in Ireland, predominantly initially at the minute, but we are looking at the UK. So we have one small project just about to kick off in July in London. So Ireland and the UK at the minute. We're obviously looking at other areas as well, but really, again, this is back to the slow, steady growth. We're kind of establishing ourselves, and the local authorities, municipalities are the hardest won clients in Ireland, and in a lot of places they've been our first clients, which has been a really good validation of our products. And so it's very much about kind of growing out from Ireland. But this is a global problem. There are other solutions out there that fix maybe contractor to subcontractor relationships. We feel that our technology is that bit more modern. It's much more user friendly, and the key, that's just not a nice thing to have. That's very important, because if people aren't comfortable using the system, the data doesn't get entered. We've found with some other large organizations where they have really good software, but it's cumbersome to use, and it ends up not getting used, even though it can do all of the things it says it does. If it's not getting used, it doesn't produce the results and the high quality data that the client needs. So.
Yeah, interesting. And well, you mentioned that the real estate might be, or you have been facing rejections. It's a conservative industry. So, and how do you see the sector? So, in your opinion, is it changing, or is this kind of still pushing the on the same not on the same conservative ideas, but or you think that it's changing and the startups or innovative ideas are refreshing the sector in Ireland, for example, that you are
Yeah,
doing?
I think, I mean, definitely since we started, I can see, like, we commenced this business in 2017, so we can definitely see there is a broader acceptance that this needs to happen now. So, and we've seen a lot more products come in, and a lot more really good products. So, we've seen some companies doing stuff like helping smaller contractors to manage their costs on site, little things like that. I think sometimes the problem is maybe that um, people are sometimes waiting in the wings for this system that does everything, and to us that does not exist. Like, there are two. I mean, we wouldn't for a minute say that our system does everything. It'll solve all of your problems. It solves a really broad problem for the client. Um, some of the larger organizations are looking for something that does everything, and they're probably holding back and holding back and holding back and not advancing with any technology because they're waiting for this unicorn system that doesn't exist. But I do think there is a broader acceptance now that technology is going to be front and center of construction going forward, and particularly with business information modeling, or building information modeling, BIM, and that type of stuff. And that really, for the real estate sector, is hugely important because going forward, I mean, it talks of smart cities and all this type of stuff. They need to start now adopting any type of technology just to get them used to and get them into that. I mean, it's a cultural thing as much as anything. For a real estate company, that they're seen as progressive if they're adopting technology. And I think definitely, yeah, in the last 3 to 4 years, I've seen a shift definitely towards it rather than away from it. And I think the future is technology. It's not anything else.
Yeah, it's not an option, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe that's the only way. And I forgot to ask you about your business model. How do you charge for your system? Is it by contracts, by license?
Yeah, so for our domestic market, it's very much around per project basis. So typically, it could be under €1,000 plus VAT for a one-off project. So, and that will handle everything. That's a much more stripped down version of AddJust for the commercial market. So for the commercial real estate market, it depends if it's for a one-off project. Again, it depends on the value of that project. We generally tie it to a percentage, and that percentage could be 0.2 of 1%. Let's just say for a €50 million, £50 million project. Typically, if we've got a client who has a portfolio of projects, so some retail companies that we've spoken to would have ongoing, whether it's refurbishments or they're kind of buying new premises and building new premises, we generally engage then on a kind of a contractual basis with them, and it's very much a bespoke type of thing. So it's on a per contract basis then. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, I'd love to say there is one figure, but ultimately, if there's a larger organization like that, it's very much that we sit down with them and go through the finer details.
Yeah, sure. Now going back to the broader discussion, and what do you think that will happen, or how the COVID-19 will impact the real estate industry?
Yeah, I think I think the commercial property industry is going to take a hit. I can see, office space. Particularly, I guess from our local knowledge here in Ireland, we've seen quite a few. Like, we would be in the west of the country, so away from Dublin. We've seen a huge interest in people trying to move away from working in Dublin, or maybe working for a large company in Dublin, but they can now maybe do 3 to 4 days a week because they've worked remotely for a while. So I think remote working is going to be, it's going to have a huge impact on commercial property and commercial investment, I guess, in the real estate, market, because I think we now, no matter where we are in the world, we have connectivity, we have access to meeting people, may not be shaking hands anymore, but I think there's going to be a broad shift. I don't know where that's going to end up. I'd like to think that commercial property and retail will always have some bit of a hold, because I think that engagement with online retail has really taken off, as we all know, and I think that's a sad thing really for society, because I think having those outlets and having that place where you can go to a place and sit down, have a coffee, and go and buy something small or whatever it is, those little things will have a huge knock-on effect on the real estate market, and particularly in the bigger cities.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the feeling we have here in Brazil, and I can hear from other companies, not only small but the big companies. They are afraid of this movement as well.
Yeah.
So, by other side, we see it. We recently have analyzed it, and around 25 to 30% of the professions running, mostly in countries like Latin America and South Asia, and 25 to 30% of the jobs allows the home office. So the other 70% doesn't allow it. We believe that will be impacted, but maybe not so strong that that's the feeling right now.
Yeah.
Oh, hope.
I mean, we all hope that the real estate market is important to us all, and I think I would hate to see a stage where even commercial property, because commercial property buildings are often beautiful architectural buildings, and they actually add to society and add to the feeling of a place, and they bring people to work into an area where there's life, and there's where there's work, there's life, and it would be sad to see too much of this remote working, because again, it'll have a huge impact on societal. It'll have a huge societal impact, as much as anything else.
Yeah, sure. And I have one last question for you. And well, you seem a very clever guy, and you have done very good, strong, and a fast pace. I would say that a fast pace of growing and consolidating your company. So I see, because of course one of the reasons I invited you to this conversation, because you have the key elements to be a very good example for other entrepreneurs that are heading to this innovation journey. So in this sense, I'd like you to give a piece of advice to an entrepreneur that are going the following steps just like yours.
Yeah, I guess again, I would have often said it in the past. We have received advice, some of it really good, some of it really bad. I think one of the things that I mean, it's something, again, I'm going back to our very first question. It's about, I grew up on a farm. Hard work was really ingrained in us, and I think as a startup, I think there's this idea, when somebody comes up with an idea, that right, this is my ticket to to whatever, but it's the journey from the day you have the idea to the successful step is 99% hard work, and really and hard work and dedication. It does take a lot out of you at times, and it's just to be prepared for that. And then if there are knocks along the way, it's how do you bounce back from those. So I mean, I think everybody has ideas. Loads of people come to me and say, "Oh, I've got this idea for an app," and I would kind of say, well, I would kind of give them a couple of hard questions that we would have got in the past as well. And I think unless you're committed to really putting in the hours, come up with the ideas, But if you're going to pursue it, really, really, really be prepared for that hard work.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Padraig, it's been very nice to hear your thoughts and learn more about yourself and about your company. Thank you very much for your time and for
Thank you, Gary.
being part of this project.
Thanks
So,
very much. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
okay.
Thank you.
You
Bye-bye.